Hello, our dear viewers, and welcome to the Digital Talk Show. We hope we can present today all the latest technology in AI and big data, cloud computing, and what have you, and of course, cyber security. As usual, we have today also in the studio my colleagues here, Yasmin and Rifai. Yasmin, how are you?
Good evening, Dr. Anwar, and good evening to our audience.
What have you got for us today?
As usual, we're going to be talking about digital transformation and artificial intelligence.
Thank you very much, and I would like to welcome also my other colleague here in the studio, Tariq Sharan. Tariq, how are you?
Good evening, Doctor. How's everything?
Fine, thank you. And what have you got for us today?
Today I would like to be discussing how we can use blockchain with big data and quantum computing.
Well, big data, quantum computer are sounding very nice, a little bit to understand, of course, a bit tricky thing anyway. Our dear viewers, let us start our first segment of the show, that is the news and views. Hello, our dear viewers. Welcome again to the Digital Talk Show. Today we are going to start with the first part of the show, that is the news and the views. And of course, it is very important to know about the importance of data governance and security for AI readiness. It is important for everybody to know that AI governance is very important for AI and for the digital transformation in general anyway. And of course, when we say security here, we mean by that cyber security. And this is very important for us to know what's going on in the whole world, because otherwise we might be a bit behind. So this is saying that recently high-profile breaches and cybersecurity failures have brought data governance and security to the forefront, you see. So we are talking here today. I would like to ask my colleagues here and my friends in the studio to tell me how important, Yasmin, governance.
I believe, and I keep repeating this everywhere I go, I believe with AI adoption and the buzz that we have been hearing lately, especially in the last 12 months, it's imperative to have the data governance and the regulatory frameworks, along with the cybersecurity measures, privacy. All these controls need to be in place so we can be ready for AI adoption.
Tariq, can you comment on the importance of data governance and security for AI readiness?
I think it's undoubtedly important, right? You need those boundaries in which AI needs to operate within, but also not to over-regulate, because that will ultimately, or could it potentially impact the actual technology innovation of AI itself and how it's developing from Gen AI to the next version of AI. So regulatory controls are important to an extent if Gen AI is to develop naturally and innovate.
Yes, Gartner said Gen AI quick wins focuses on potential productivity improvements. And I think this is, of course, very important because, as you know, these are very important reports. These will likely come from productivity assistants such as Microsoft 365 Copilot and Google Workspace. Such, of course, activities are easy to get started, pilot, and buy at a usual task-specific or so measure and value time saved for both these specific tasks and across aggregate tasks related to specific processes within a specific time period. I think they are talking about the productivity improvements along maybe, of course, diminishing source of differentiation over time, but integrating these capabilities into other business processes can help enterprise maintain competitive edge. What do you understand of this, Tara?
Well, so I think ultimately Gen AI will be there to help us with coding. I think that's one of the core use cases is coding. Why coding? Because the low code, no code discussion that we had actually.
Yes, we have just
the robot.
Yes.
I was actually coding from dragging and dropping individual blocks from the front end, but from the back end, a code was being generated to control that robot, which the viewers, inshallah, they see in the first show. So as a use case, I think low code, no code is definitely one of the core use cases, at least for the techies. But also productivity as well. I've actually made recently a to-do list using Gen AI.
Oh, that's interesting.
To keep me up to date and to make sure, I'm always on time. So
Yes.
There's many use cases, but they're just a few.
You think this is no code going to be really on the flavor of everybody. Yasmin, that nobody would like to code, and they are seeing this generative AI producing so many things without hard coding.
So I'm gonna just first comment on the productivity piece, because I believe like this is something I've been experiencing myself along with a lot of people I know. So on the Gen AI and the productivity, I believe it's indeed like one of the quick wins that we're gonna have leveraging the generative AI. And I read like an interesting statistics in the latest white paper I've been working on. So I read that like millions of hours of tasks that are repetitive across the workforce in the government or the organizations in the private sector can be automated through the Gen AI, which will save the government almost up to $41.1 billion yearly.
How many?
$41.1 billion yearly
For automating the processes.
that are leveraging the productivity tools that
very
are
interesting.
using
Big figure.
Gen AI. Yes,
Very
of
big
course.
figure.
And
This is
that's
for the state of Kuwait, you mean?
I know it's a global
Globally.
statistic.
For
And that's like one of the main motivators for governments, so they can, I mean, leverage the Gen AI and the latest tools that we are seeing arising in the technology field, so we can increase the productivity in the employees. And I believe this is specifically in case of Kuwait and in the globe, that especially when it comes to the productivity, and we hear a lot, I mean, one of the main challenges that we hear about the productivity in the government sector specifically, it's one of the challenges that we have when we talk about digital transformation.
Yes.
So leveraging these tools is going to be very important, so we can help and have like
more productivity. Yes. And of course saving hours of work, and then of course most important is that we utilize the working office hours. And it says also here, differentiating Gen AI drives competitive advantages. So quite honestly, it says here by 2025 growth in 90% of enterprise deployment of Gen AI will slow as costs exceed value. Well, I don't know.
And that goes with what I said.
Well, so we need to reduce the cost. And I think this is very interesting, quite honestly, because, well, the cost, increasing the cost in what? In coding or what?
The implementations, that like the cost of implementation of such projects or using these tools like licenses or whatever is needed to leverage these tools are going to be much less than the number of cost saving that we will make using the productivity.
You have a comment on this?
So just reading the quote there, so by 2025, growth in 90% of enterprise deployments of Gen AI was slow as cost exceeds value. What I take from that comment is that the costs will increase versus the value delivered, right, of using Gen AI in an organizational setting. So there's always quite a delicate balance between innovation deployment.
Exactly. I mean, you can never tell, because innovation sometimes does cost a lot of money, but the return, ROI, and I will speak about the ROI now, sometimes it is worth it, because on the long run, we are saving money, because the startup, yes, you might cost, or somebody can spend a lot of money on the cost of startup. But I think this is something interesting. Let us go now to something which is a little bit fishy. I really sometimes don't want to concentrate, but because today, since we are going to go to speak about the blockchain, and I think these cryptocurrencies that are worth the investment, I am not saying we are going to, but I'm saying these are the issues sometimes we need to speak about. I am personally not in favor of it, because I don't know how, because it has to be, of course, in a framework, in a legal framework used. And of course, I think this is an issue which we have to really make sure that we are going to, if we are into this digital cryptocurrency, we need to put some sort of, what do you think, Yasmin?
I believe we need to embrace a lot of innovative things that will come our way.
Yes.
And it will depend, like every investment, if people are willing to take the risk or not, or in favor of the normal, usual stuff, or they would go with the
Well,
unknown.
I think, yes, there is some attraction and some challenges, I think.
Absolutely.
So, Tariq, you will say?
I think thinking more broadly about the emerging technology that's enabling crypto, which is blockchain, as you mentioned, and
Yes.
we'll go on to it later on.
Yes, we are going to speak about it.
I think definitely there's some challenges. Of course, actually energy consumption of the blockchain, crypto, let's say crypto, for example, to mine a crypto takes a lot of energy, physical energy. So that's one of the challenges, but there's so many good use cases like CBDC, central bank digital currencies, which we'll go on to later. And I think there's a delicate balance, right?
Exactly.
Crypto is not just blockchain.
And I think because it has been in the market and the stock market worldwide, and it is,
So are you investing in cryptocurrency?
me?
Yes.
I don't have enough money to invest. It is a risky thing. It always tells you that, well, you can invest $5,000 US dollars, and then you never know where it goes. You see, in which line and in which somebody is doing their own business.
So you would go with the normal, what I know.
Not normal without
What I know.
You want me to tell you where I will spend this 1 million KD?
Maybe with AI.
Anyway, the ROI in AI, these are the buzzwords, huh? And how to find it. The return on investment is very important, of course, in AI. We spoke a little bit, which touched on it, as a matter of fact, and this is really very important. The number of companies experimenting with the automation capabilities of generative AI platforms is expected to double. But do the hoped for financial return justify the high cost of the technology? This is exactly what we have just been talking about, Tariq, isn't it? And Yasmin, because this is just last month, the news, most important thing, any project is the ROI. Yasmin, this ROI is the return on investment on artificial intelligence. Any project now, I think in the region, you just mentioned before we go on air, that some countries around us, I think in Saudi Arabia, they started.
They announced now LEAP is happening since March 4th. So they announced they will be investing $1 billion for AI startup accelerator in Saudi Arabia. And similarly, there was an earlier announcement by the UAE government. And that shows how AI is going to be, I believe it's the reality now. It's not anymore a choice or an option that governments will adopt or any organization will adopt. It's going to be the way forward.
Well, $1 billion US dollar is a big amount of money for starting up a new thing about AI, isn't it?
And actually, one other interesting announcement that has been done in LEAP is the Aramco. They announced the first Gen AI industry. I believe they had it's called
Metaverse?
No, not Metaverse.
Anyway, they are indulging in this, and they are of course taking part into developing. It says here by 2030 companies will spend 42 billion a year on generative artificial intelligence Gen AI projects such as chatbots, research, writing, and summarization tools. Well, that's a big number, huh? 42 billion. And while the technology has been heralded as a boom to productivity, nailing down a return on the investment ROI in Gen AI could prove to be elusive. What do you think of this, Tariq? I think this is a big figure.
Yeah, this is a huge figure, but I mean, we're already seeing this in use in the financial services sector, right, with chatbots and the way we're servicing customers through different mediums or distant channels, omni-channel they call it, different channels. So I think it's already there, but the sophistication of these chatbots are getting more and more so that you can actually interact and transact with these chatbots, not just ask with the nearest branches to your nearest investment office or bank. So they really are, as Gen AI develops, the chatbots are developing alongside too.
Well, that's very interesting. Thank you very much. And I would like to ask all our viewers to stay tuned, please, after the break. Hello, our dear viewers, and we are going to move now to another segment of the show, that is the digital transformation with our friend here in the studio, Yasmin. Yasmin, the floor is yours.
The floor is ours.
Yes.
So maybe last time we didn't focus much on the digital transformation. And I believe this was the previous word that we heard a lot, especially in Kuwait and globally after COVID happened and hit us. Like even there was a joke that goes around that like COVID is the factor that accelerated digital transformation globally and made a lot of people learn how to use the online tools.
Okay.
So digital transformation is the process of transitioning from old manual and often time-consuming methods to modern, efficient, and digital solutions.
Okay.
It's like moving from a physical photo album to digital galleries on your tablet. Like
Okay.
if you can move to the next slide.
Yes, this is the next slide.
Yeah, so just for the audience to understand like what's digital transformation. So we're gonna be talking about some analogs when we had the traditional way of executing and doing things versus the digital. If we imagine like being a time machine where one side we have the traditional way of doing things, if we can imagine back in 90s how the traditional office was full of pile of papers and how we used to do the manual work. But now
everything is digital.
we have the laptops, we have the desktops, everything is digitized.
Everything is scanned.
Exactly. So
Archived electronically.
yes, and on the other hand, we have the today digital world where everything is our fingerprints. And
Yes.
transitioning to digital solutions, it's like having this caterpillar that will transform into a butterfly.
Butterfly. I like this butterfly picture. Yes.
Yeah, so it's like when we have, as I mentioned earlier, when we have this physical photo albums that's becoming like a digital gallery on our tablets, on our phones, and similarly to the caterpillar to butterfly transformation, this is like moving from traditional to digital, where it's more colorful, more efficient, and capable of reaching new heights. Leveraging the technology. That's what digital transformation is.
Yeah, I wished you had put a colorful butterfly to reach our.
The caterpillar is, black is the king of colors.
Let us talk technology. Please go to.
So if we go just some of the use cases in the digital transformation. So if we, as I said, I'm showing some use cases where we move from the traditional to digital. In the case of shopping, which I know a lot of people in Kuwait are very obsessed with shopping.
Worldwide, yes.
No, but in Kuwait it's even more. So shopping has moved from crowded malls to online platforms now. We have a lot of e-commerce that has also flourished.
Online,
yes. And that increased the convenience and efficiency for
but
billions of people around the globe.
This is very true. And some people like to go to the old way of going themselves to the market. Anyway, digital transformation.
And in finance, digital transformation is revolutionizing the way we bank and invest. And I believe my friend Tariq here can also mention, comment on the banking sector. So where fintech companies are bringing new solutions to traditional banking products, we have blockchain and cryptocurrency also that we're going to be talking about later, as it seems. And also we have the robo-advisor that we see in the bank, so it can help us as consumers, so it can be about having a better service. And also we have a lot of automation in financial services that's helping the processes in the financial sector. And at last, we have the digital transformation impact, which is making its mark in our daily lives. So mentioning just these small use cases for people to understand what's digital transformation, we can see how much it transformed our life. From billboards to cars. Technology is making the experiences more connected. And it's a journey that from traditional to digital, where we make our world smarter and more efficient every single day.
Very interesting. Thank you very much, Yasmin. Any comment, Tariq, on what Yasmin said?
So on that nice subject of shopping, which I'm an avid shopper myself, we've seen a lot of fintech startups and the BNPL. So what is BNPL? It's a jargon for buy now and pay it later. especially in the US and even in the Khalij. We've seen now from Dubai and Saudi some certain companies entering the Kuwaiti market. Not yet fully regulated, but they're entering the market and dealing with Kuwaiti customers. And how it works is the customer buys now and pays later, normally interest-free. So it's quite alluring, and it's online onboarding, so you don't have to sign any forms. And normally from A to Z, I've done it. I bought something within 3.5 minutes and got the finance straight away and paid later. So it's very appealing, very alluring.
Is it a trustworthy thing?
I mean, trustworthy from the sense of financial, planning and, being a bit more cautious with money. Probably it's on the side of you're going to spend more than in this that you wouldn't be using it, but trustworthy from the side.
No, from the side of the provider.
The provider. So as they're based outside of the country, that's why there's the talks about regulations. And you're right, it's another jurisdiction. It's not Kuwait, but there's some discussions around that.
Anyway, thank you very much. Our dear viewers, please stay tuned. As usual, we are moving to another segment of the show. Please stay tuned after the break. Hello, our dear viewers, and welcome again to the Digital Talk Show. Today we are going to speak about something different a little bit, but of course it is depending on the technology and the digital transformation in general. I would like to welcome our guest here in the studio, Mr. Saud Al-Awadi. He is a senior software developer in the private sector. Saud.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anwar, for having me. Thank you, Tariq.
So what are you going to talk today about?
I definitely want to introduce the technology of blockchain today. And I do want to start off by following up on a key concept that we might have mentioned earlier in the show, involving cryptocurrencies and blockchain.
Yes.
And to clear up a common misunderstanding.
Yeah, there is a misunderstanding. Sometimes there is interconnection. People, they have not trusting the whole thing.
Exactly. And I would love to say that blockchain instead is not necessarily tied to cryptocurrencies. Yes, a key component of cryptocurrencies is the blockchain. That is the underlying technology. But blockchain does not necessarily have to be applied in cryptocurrencies. And as I'm sure what we will talk about later.
Yeah, it's not an only case study for the Bitcoin.
Exactly.
So there are other usages.
Of course. And some of those uses are in pilot today. Which I'm sure we'll talk about, yes.
So let us see the slides we have here today, which we prepared yourself. So this is the slide we have in front of us. This is the blockchain slide. I can see it in front of me. It says here, the block is created. Can you speak?
Of course, I would love to. So I'll paint it with an example so that we can understand it a little bit simpler. So let's say that you are on an online store and you would like to purchase an item. The moment that you would click checkout on the storefront to record this transaction, what would need to happen is that this transaction has to be a part of a block. Now, a block is essentially just a collection of transactions.
Okay.
To make sure that these transactions are authentic, validated, and secure is where we have the involvement of a network of nodes, wherein a node is just a computer. So that we make sure that the transactions added there are valid and correct, these nodes have to do a lot of calculations, mathematical calculations.
So they are part of a network?
Of course. It's a series of computers interconnected.
Yes.
Once a block is created, that block is published to every node on the network, and all the nodes then work together to try to find the solution to that block. From there, when a block is validly calculated, then that block is republished to the remaining nodes on the network to be checked and authenticated that it is in fact valid. From there, once the validity has been confirmed by all the nodes in the network, it is then added to the blockchain as something that cannot be changed, cannot be edited or manipulated. And at the same time, it then goes to validate every previous set of transactions in the network in that blockchain.
I see. So every transaction, as a matter of fact, is being recorded and then transmitted for authentications, and then once the authentication is done, then it is published on the blockchain itself, so that for verification purposes, and it is valid.
Exactly.
So it is authenticated, and now it is trustworthy, a transaction, whether it is in any store in the world, isn't it?
Correct. And the very powerful thing about blockchain is that this information is publicly accessible by anyone or everyone in the standard implementation of blockchain. There are some other implementations where this is not necessarily the case, depending on, of course, privacy of customer information or sensitivity of this information, where then, for example, if let's say this information was dealing with your own personal information, of course, you would not want this information to be
Exactly.
publicly
This is what I was going to ask you, Saud. If this is a private information, private data, I mean, it goes everywhere, or how can it is protected and private?
It all depends on the use case and the implementers or the programmers of that blockchain solution. For example, when we maybe think of smart documents, of course, inherently in that blockchain implementation, of course, you would be the only one, and of course, regulated authorities, let's say, that have access to this information.
I see. So that's why sometimes they put your email or put your mobile for those. For example, some presentation when I create, they tell me you are the owner. Who you want others to see it, isn't it? Well,
That is yes.
That is the case.
It is a similar analogy, I would say. Yes.
Yes, similar analogy. Yes, exactly. Well, that's very interesting. Anyway, people are always concerned about security and privacy. And you are saying that it is trustworthy. And is there a framework, I mean, worldwide? I mean, is it?
Well, the ease to program a blockchain solution is public information, actually. So with basic understanding of programming concepts, as well as understanding such as JavaScript or libraries that are used for blockchain programming, such as Solidity. You can program your own blockchain solution on your own PC.
For the organization?
Of course, when we speak about enterprise, then this would have to go and have additional layers of validation, as well as, depending on the use case that we have here, it could be that we might need necessary compliance checks, regulatory checks as well, that are factored into this blockchain implementation. However, there are challenges, I would say, that are associated with implementing blockchain at scale. For example, to validate and to perform these calculations, it requires a lot of energy consumption. You would need to do hundreds, if not thousands, of mathematical calculations.
Processing power.
Exactly. That then, let's say, increases energy consumption, which would lead to a much bigger environmental impact. Therefore, proper regulation needs to be addressed, needs to be written up, so that this is not taken advantage of, or it's not used in the wrong way.
But it seems that still it is not very much covered. Isn't it the case?
I would say one of the biggest challenges for blockchain is adoption, and is getting the general population on board. Yes, thank you. Because of, let's say, this inherent idea that blockchain might be unsafe due to its associations with cryptocurrency.
Yes. Yeah, I think this is the tricky thing, because it has been associated so long.
Yes.
Now, to separate it from this, and it becomes a little bit tricky, and people still. I would like to go to the other slide, the other one, which we have here. So tell us about this. I think this.
Yes, this slide does discuss the challenges with implementing blockchain at scale. So as we were describing, calculations need to be performed, which would then lead to higher energy consumption, which could lead to more environmental impact because of, let's say, the nature of this energy being non-renewable. It could be based on fossil fuels. Therefore, regulation does need to be taken quite carefully into consideration to prevent misuse of this technology.
Is it a critical factor, energy? I thought we are dealing with computers. Well, my understanding of it, I'm with the basic, I don't understand much of it.
Yes.
But is it critical so much?
If you imagine the nature of which that these blocks then are validated, so that, let's say, a malicious actor doesn't try to create a fraudulent transaction. These calculations need to be difficult on purpose so that once a calculation is done, no other node on the network, for example, could replicate that calculation.
Good.
And then from there, it would then essentially be a stamp of approval on this block so that, yes, this block is authenticated, validated, and now cannot change, cannot be manipulated.
It has a tag, more or less.
More or less, it has a mathematical tag, yes.
I see.
Yes.
Or electronic signature.
Exactly. We can think of it like that, yes.
Yes. And then,
Cryptographic.
so this is a unique blockchain.
Exactly.
Transactions.
Yes.
For this enterprise, for example, or this, I think of it about like Amazon.com and these big players. They might be using such things.
Yes, there are definitely big names in the industry that are looking to pilot this, I would say, such as IBM, Oracle, which have already been doing some research into this, for example, in other applications, not in finance, but for example, in supply chain management.
So the advantage, in short, what are the, I mean, if such Oracle, IBM go for such thing, there must be some sort of ROI, isn't it? We spoke about ROI, the return on investment. I mean, is there really a need for it? Or?
If you would think that this would eliminate a lot of overhead and introduce a lot of optimization, of course, this would in turn lead to more profits as a result of reduced cost.
Okay.
So there is definitely an incentive to go in this direction.
I think this is very interesting subject because we haven't touched it, and I think Tariq will also speak later on the use cases of the blockchain. So thank you very much for being with us, Saud, and we hope we see you in the future.
Thank you so much.
For another subject, okay? Our dear viewers, please stay tuned after the break because Tariq will also tell us more about this blockchain on the application side of it. Please stay tuned. Hello, our dear viewers, and welcome again to the Digital Talk Show. Continuing from where our guest Saud Al-Awadi finished on the blockchain, we are going to move with Tariq to tell us more about unblocking. What is this? Unblocking the power of blockchain with big data and the quantum computing. Tariq, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. So actually going back to an analogy how I see blockchain, at least might be helpful for the viewers, see it as an old bookkeeping kind of service. You know, back in the 40s, 50s, where we didn't have core banking systems, but we had paper systems to log transactions. Is that a fair analogy? So like, you know, Saud and me, 10KD, for example, get written down on a paper, it get put in a little pigeonhole, they call them, a little hole in the wall, and that would log that kind of handshake of transaction. I see blockchain as just a digital version of that now in regards to, you know, unlocking nodes and so on and so forth and logging transactions. But with regards to business cases, which is what I'm really here to talk about, looking at more, you know, regulated forms, services of blockchain.
Yes.
I like to use the example of food. I think that's quite an interesting one. We all love steaks, from the Wagyu steaks from Japan or truffles from Italy, you know, rare things. And we want to ensure really that we can trace these products, right?
Okay.
So actually you can use blockchain technology to trace foods from its source to the table. So that truffle from Italy can be logged within that distributed ledger technology or bookkeeping record, that handshake, and you can ensure that that truffle is genuine, safe to eat, and hasn't actually been poisoned or needs to be recalled, which again is another way of using blockchain. You can track that individual item throughout the supply chain. So you can streamline the supply chain itself. You can track where there are issues or recalls of products, and you can just generally see your organic truffle where it's gone from A to Z and on your table, which is now a big thing, you know, organic industry and tracking food source.
I like coconut. Can I trace it?
We can track some coconuts from West Africa. Ah, there we go.
Is that original? It hasn't been modified or changed? Would you know this?
Well, look, if it has a serial number and it's stored within a bookkeeping record on the blockchain, why not? We can track the coconuts for Dr. Anwar.
Yes, of course.
They didn't change the ingredients.
Exactly. So you want to know what you're putting in your body, right? You want to know it's A, the original, authentic, you want to know B, its source, and you want to know C, just generally where that item has been before it's landed on my table.
Nice.
How far of a distance to, ESG factors like environmental, sustainability. You want to know how much carbon, capture or carbon waste was produced when that item of food landed on my table. That's also another thinking track.
Also, it is very important to know the expiry dates for this.
This is the most important, of
You
course.
see, these fruits, for example, they have some expiry dates. So, to say the least, I mean, for the health of the human beings, I mean, we
most
need to
obvious.
have such thing in a place, in order, and used also.
And actually, I was talking to my colleague Sal just before the show, and it's actually applicable to medicines. Remember, we were talking about pharmaceuticals.
Yes, exactly.
And recalls he mentioned, which is actually a really important factor when a medicine goes through 10 years of a human trial and perhaps there's an error or a recall. You need to know where you sent those medicines, as Saud was saying earlier to me. It's important.
I would like to ask, so do you think this is really very much a need for the applications for this?
I definitely think that they would solve a very specific problem. And it's a problem that today is very hard to do without the enablement of technology here to help bridge the gap. For example, the moment it leaves the pharmaceutical company, how would you know where it's gone, whose hands it's been in,
Exactly.
who's touched this? And these are very sensitive
The ingredients?
and medicine, where the slight amount of tampering
yes.
could mean the difference between life or death.
Let's take it back to COVID. Let's take it back to COVID with the vaccinations, Oxford or Pfizer or the other vaccines available.
Yes.
What about the batches there? So I'm sure, if not, it's already happening. It's at least thought about with regards to tracking.
I think this is really interesting when you said about COVID. I think in Germany somebody discovered that he had in his body 170 injections. 170, can you believe it? There was news, but still I think that was something very strange. Anyway, thank you very much, Saud.
Thank you so
very much, Tara. Inshallah, we'll carry on this subject. It's very interesting. Really, nobody is touching on it because are suspicious about it, but I think it is very nice to talk about it. Our dear viewers, please stay tuned after the break for the continuation of your favorite show, that is the Digital Talk Show. Hello, our dear viewers, and welcome again to the Digital Talk Show. Sometimes I keep thinking about myself. Do I have a latent talents? Well, sometimes I would like to change my career if I am interested. Well, I keep thinking, and I have been thinking, and I use the internet. I told them my character, my feelings, the way I brought up. And then there was a suggestion to me that to do something. Well, I think that will be very interesting to see it on the monitor. That is the writing science fiction novels. I would like to be a novelist. I would like to write some novels, but that is on the science fiction of it. Believe it or not, can I do it or not? Well, one day you will see me publishing a few books on science fiction. That will be interesting, and I think some people here in the studio might be jealous. I wouldn't say who, but let us see what we have. Well, our dear viewers, you can use now the AI tools to write proper novels the way you like, and you can publish them, and you can perhaps earn some money. Good luck for it. Let us go and follow it up in this segment of the show. Well, let us say understanding science, and of course I wrote to this ChatGPT or other one. What do you suggest for me the titles for those science fictions? I think that will be very interesting, Tariq and Yasmin. I will keep you informed, you see. But if you learn these skills, please let me know, huh? Don't just hide it away, because we are sharing the knowledge nowadays, huh? So this is saying understanding science fiction, writing and leveraging ChatGPT for science fiction, of course, crafting compelling science fiction stories. Understanding science fiction writing. This is very interesting thing. It is definition of the science fiction. There is a definition. It tells all this is by by AI tools. Actually, I never wrote things, but it gives you a structured way of thinking of doing the whole thing. Key elements of science fiction, appeal of science fiction. Well, it has to be appealing to the readers, to the audience, because you want to sell, you want to make money out of it. Can we? Yes, why not? This is a legal thing, you see. Building science fiction worlds, well, that's very interesting, quite honestly. World and character development. We have to have some characters, by the way. You might have a space, shuttle. You might have something, stars, moons, and we might have those strange, these objects, flying objects they call them, non-identified flying objects. Well, I think sometimes we might have some of these creatures, 3 meters long, perhaps 2 meters wide, with the big faces, and some with the dinosaurs. I would like to see the dinosaurs. Let us see what is going to be here. Exploring the futuristic scenarios. That's very interesting. What are the scenarios? It is reading the future. Can you see? This is reading the future. Conflict and resolution. Impact on society. This is a very interesting thing. How the impact. You see, we have to be futuristic. Sometimes you have to think in the future what it is going to be looking like. This is all from ChatGPT. Very interesting thing. Well, leveraging ChatGPT for science fiction. It says here, generating science fiction ideas. It gave me good ideas. You go to prompting ChatGPT and then exploring the plot possibilities and then developing futuristic concepts. That will be very interesting. And I think you will see someday my picture on a story and a novel, and then perhaps with these different creatures for the future. Well, this is some refining science fiction concepts. Iterative story development, we have to iterate it for a final version of it. Character creation, we have to create, it will create for us a creation, because if we have this in the future, world building assistant, I think that's going to be a very interesting thing. Exploring unconventional ideas, overcoming writer's block. Yes, and I think collaborative storytelling, this is going to be. I think these are very interesting really ideas. And then crafting compelling science fiction stories, it says here. And we are going to go engaging science fiction themes, exploration of a futuristic concepts, social and cultural impact. Do you want to have this social and cultural impact, or philosophical reflection? Let us go away from some philosophical reflection. We want to be a little bit realistic. Anyway, this is very interesting thing. And of course, plot development and narrative arcs. This is really showing the block diagram for the whole thing. And this is writing and revising science fiction narratives. It says creative iteration, thematic cohesion, and reader engagement. You have the feedback. What do you think? I would like to ask my friends here in the studio. Yasmin, would you how do you rate me for being a novel writing in the future about science fiction?
I think it would be amazing.
Amazing? Do I have a future for this, Tariq?
Definitely. I don't even think you need the ChatGPT behind you, but I think it's interesting to see how the arts and industry is impacted or disrupted by this AI use on video generation, film and music and so on.
And the characters also, you see.
And the characters are crazy.
Yeah, this is going to be really, and then when you write, I think these are some people with experience perhaps, and they never have time to do it. But they have the ideas. And I think it is worthwhile, Yasmin, to do so, to really report and record what their ideas have been doing so far. What do you think?
I believe for me, like when you were going through it, I was just thinking that AI is writing about science fiction, because before, like, AI was the science fiction.
Yes.
Now AI is gonna be, the creativity is gonna be thinking about creative ideas and leading to these stories. And actually, like 2 days ago, I was looking into the Amazon self-publishing tools, which is Kindle. And then I was looking, they added this option where you have AI generated or AI...
novel writing?
Yeah.
Or text writing, perhaps?
Yes. So even these kind of publishing tools are now considering the AI generative
yes.
AI generated content that we can leverage, because a lot of writers, for example, or publishers, they can leverage this for editing, for, as Tariq mentioned, like we are seeing a lot of usage of these kind of tools lately, and it's going to be becoming part of our reality and how we do things.
And even for our youth, perhaps. Tell me, Tariq.
I think, AI is brilliant within the arts sector, but it never quite, in my opinion at least, replaces a human, right? Because I remember these early AI images of humans, and the hands, the fingers were distorted. You can clearly see there's something not right with the eyes and their depth. But that is with Gen AI getting better. But it leads me on to what I was talking on the last show about IA, which is intelligence augmentation, where it's AI working with humans. So my point being that there always needs to be that human touch point. Exactly. So
yeah, I think I agree with you, but at the end of the day, many people, quite honestly, don't have the time, don't have the training. Yet now the trainer is going to be the mentor, like you see, ChatGPT. And it will guide you from step A. As I said, there are 15 slides over there. It created, of course, the text, and then I took it to PowerPoint generation. What do you think?
I'm just thinking about the Van Goghs of the world, the famous artists from the 1400s. They'd maybe be a little bit upset if AI is replacing it. You either got it or you haven't with art, in my opinion. You're obviously a very artistic or good eye, or it would be interesting to see how it develops in the future.
Last word, Yasmin, about this, because we are closing the show now. Tell me what you have, an idea. Will we see your novel writing capabilities in the future?
No, I actually do write, and I will be publishing a book, but I'm looking forward for your novel on science fiction.
Yes, you will wait for my novel, yes. I'll publish it, yeah. And Amazon perhaps.com. One day you can read it in Kindle. And I think I'd advise you, Tariq, to be a storyteller or writing something in the future using this AI for this.
I think I'm quite a good storyteller anyway, to be honest with you. I always stick to the facts, and I think AI can also help leverage facts, right? So a blend of both.
Our dear viewers, I would like to thank my colleagues here in the studio. Yasmin Rifai, thank you very much. And Tariq Sharhan, thank you very much. I would like to thank everybody here in the studio, also in the control room. Until we see you in the next episode, good night.